Hi all of you. In this tutorial I will explain you about chapter number 13, developing pricing strategies and programs. Now price comes into different forms and it performs a variety of functions. The different terminologies which refers to pricing can be rent, it can be tuition fees, it can be fares or rates, toll taxes, wages, commissions. So these are the different forms of pricing which you and me we are paying for some sort of goods or services whatever we are purchasing. In this particular chapter there are three things which will be discussed: consumer psychology and pricing, the second one is setting up the price, and the third one is price adaptation and strategies. So let us understand that what is the psychology of the consumers behind pricing of a particular product or the service. Now when the customer is going to purchase any particular product or the price, then marketers have identified that consumers often actively process the price information. They try to interpret that pricing and they compare it with the prior purchasing experience. They compare that particular pricing from the formal communication channels which they have received through advertising or through the brochure or through the salesperson, and through informal communication channels like friends, colleagues or family members, or the point of purchase material. So this way the customer is actively processing that whatever pricing of the product is, or whether it is appropriate or not, whether it is whatever they had paid earlier. Fine. So this way the comparison is done. Purchase decisions are based on how consumers perceive the price and what they consider that what should be the actual price and what should not be. So every customer is having a lower threshold of a price and the upper threshold of the price. Customers may have a lower price threshold below which the prices signal inferior or they are unacceptable in quality according to the perception of the customers, and an upper price threshold refers to the concept where the prices are prohibitive and the customer may feel that it is not worth spending that much amount of money. Here I will explain this concept with the help of an example. That suppose the customer is going to purchase a mobile, and for purchasing that mobile the lower price threshold set by the customer is 10,000 and the upper price threshold set by the customer is rupees 20,000. Suppose if the salesperson is showing any mobile of rupees 5,000 and 7,000, in this kind of situation the customer may perceive it inferior and it will not be accepted by the customer because it is falling below rupees 10,000. And if the same salesperson is showing any mobile of 25,000 or 30,000 or more than 20,000, then that will also not be acceptable by the customer because the customer may feel that it is not worth spending that much amount of money for purchasing a mobile. So this way every customer is having a lower price limit and upper price limit, and it varies according to the product, it also varies according to the customer. So this way the attitude of pricing depends on variety of factors like economic condition of the customer, income of the customer, occasion, family situation. So understanding how consumers arrive at their perceptions of prices is very important in marketing. So here we will try to understand three key topics: reference prices, price quality inferences, and price endings. The first concept is reference prices. Now although consumers may have a fairly good knowledge of the price range, but there are few customers who can recall the exact or the specific price of the product they had paid in the past on the basis of numerous factors. So when the customer is examining or having a look at a particular product, then generally he can employ the reference price. So reference price is comparing the observed price of the product to an internal reference price they remember, or it can be to the external frame of reference also, which can be the advertisement or which can be the labels or the price tags. So based on this kind of comparison there are different types of reference prices which is mentioned here. The first one is fair price. Fair price refers to the concept what the consumers feel the product should cost on the basis of his or her own perception. The next reference price is upper bound price, which refers to the maximum price which the consumer would pay for a particular product or service which he or she is buying. Then a lower bound price refers to the minimum price of the product which the customer would pay. Then we have the typical price. It refers to the ideal price of a particular product depending on the features or the characteristics of the product. The last price paid refers to that concept when the customer is comparing the current price with the actual price which the customer has paid during the last purchase. Then the competitor price is comparing the price of a particular product with the competitor's price. Expected future price is whatever the customer predicts or feels that this would be the future price of the product depending on the demand, supply and on the economic situation. And usual discounted price refers to having a perception of a particular price of the product depending on the sales discounts or promotional schemes going on. So these are the different types of reference pricing which are employed by different types of customers. The second one is price quality inferences. Many consumers use the price as an indicator of the quality. The customers have that perception that if the price of the product is high, then the quality is superior, and if the price of the product is less, then the quality is inferior. So here the price acts as a signal of the quality. But it is not always true. It might be possible that the price is not that much high, but still the quality is better, and vice versa. So when the information about the true quality is available, in that kind of situation, price becomes a less significant indicator of the quality. And when this information about the quality is not available to the customer, then price definitely acts as a signal of quality. The third one is price ending or queues. Now the number which is there at the ending of the price, that is also having a psychological impact into the mind of the customers. Here there are different types of price ending or price queues. The first one is end in odd number. Now ending in odd numbers refers to ending with 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. So majority of the time the price of the product ends with 9. Say for example, if any particular product is having the price of rupees 299, then the customers may perceive that the product is within the range of 200 but not in the range of 300, although there is a difference of only 1 rupee. So this way it is having a psychological impact. The second one is ending price with 0 or 5. Now price that end with 0 and 5 are very popular because they are thought to be easier for the consumers to process, and they can easily remember the price of that particular product from their memory. Then the third one is sale sign and the price end with 9. They are quite influential. Now whenever we are going to purchase any particular product, then if there is a sales sign or sales tag, then the rush towards that particular product category or the brands is high. So it is having a more impact on the process of the buying, and the sales also increases when this kind of signals or the tags are available at different product categories. Then the tag of limited availability also increases or spurs the sales. So when the tag used is limited availability or available only for next 1 week or 1 day, so this also leads to the increase in the shopping of the customers. So this way, these are the different types of, you can say, price endings which are employed by different types of sellers to increase the demand and the sales of the different products and services. The next topic of the chapter is steps in setting the price or price setting procedure. The firms must consider many factors when they are setting its pricing policy. Here in this table you can see the summary of the 6-step process behind the setting procedure, that is a price setting procedure. The first one is select the price objective. The second step is determine the demand. The third step is estimate the cost. The fourth one is analyze the competitors' cost, price and offers. And the fifth one is select the pricing method, and the sixth one is select the final price. Now the first one is step in this price setting procedure, selecting the pricing objective. Here the company must first decide that where it wants to position its product into the market. The clearer the firm's objective, the easier it becomes to set a particular price of the product. The 5 major objectives of the firm can be survival, it can be maximum current profit, maximum market share, maximum market scheming, and product quality leadership. So this can be the different objectives. Talking about the first one, that is survival. Companies pursue survival as the objective generally when the competition is very high or the needs and wants of customers are changing very quickly. So here the company will price the product in such a manner where it is able to cover the variable cost and some fixed cost also, so that the company can at least stay in the business. So this way the survival can be the short run objective, and in the long run the company can change the price for maximizing the profit and generating more revenue. The second one is maximum current profit. Many companies try to set a price that will maximize the current profit. These companies estimate the demand and cost associated with the alternative prices, and they choose the price that produces the maximum current profit or from which the maximum return on investment can be generated. So this particular strategy assumes that the firm is having a full-fledged knowledge about its demand and the cost functions, which is actually very difficult to estimate. So here the company will set a price which will produce a maximum current profit, and the company will be able to generate maximum return on the investment for a shorter period of time. But the main drawback is the company may sacrifice the long run performance if it continues with the same pricing in future, because in future the competitor may come up with a better product at a lesser price. The third objective is maximum market share. There are some companies who want to maximize their market share, so they have the belief that higher sales volume will lead to the lower unit cost and higher long run profit. So due to this kind of perception, they set the lowest price, assuming that the market is price sensitive. And when the goal is to maximize the market share, then the company goes for the pricing strategy which is referred as market penetration pricing. So market penetration pricing is a strategy in which the marketers they initially launch the product with a lower price with the aim to gain the maximum market share quickly. So this concept is very common into the FMCG sector, that when the company is coming up with a new product into the market, the initial price is less, and because the price is less, so they can grab the majority of the market share. Now market penetration pricing is having certain assumptions, or it can favor under certain situations. So the first situation is the market is highly price sensitive and a low price leads to the increase in the market growth rate. So in this situation, if the company is adopting market penetration pricing, then it will be successful. The second condition is production and distribution cost falls due to more production, and the third is the low price discourages the actual and the potential competition to enter. So this way the company will be able to achieve more market share. Next objective is maximum market skimming. Here the company first sets the high price of the product, and slowly and gradually it reduces or lowers the price of the product. So market skimming refers to a strategy in which the company sets a relatively high initial price of a product and then lowers the price over time. This method of pricing is very common in the technological products, like say for example when LED was launched into the market, the price was very high and slowly and gradually the price was decreased. As the demand of the first customer is satisfied, the firm lowers the price in order to attract the another group of customers or price sensitive buyers. So this way the company is going for market skimming, that is high to low pricing strategy. But the main disadvantage of this method is the consumers who buy early at the highest price, they might be dissatisfied if they compare themselves to those who buy later at a lower price. So this is one of the challenge with this kind of strategy. Now market skimming is useful under the following situations. The first one is it is useful when the sufficient number of buyers, they have the high demand and they are ready to purchase the product at a higher price. The second one is high price does not attract more competitors. So this is also one of the reason that why the company is able to generate the revenue initially even though the price is high. And the third one is high price communicates superior image. So many customers perceive that because the price is high, then the quality of the product is also better. So with that perception also, they are purchasing the product with a higher price. Then the next pricing objective is product quality leadership. Now when the companies are charging the premium prices or high price of the product with the objective to demonstrate a premium image or the superior quality of the product, that is referred as product quality leadership. So all the luxurious brands, to name a few, like BMW, Rolls-Royce, Rolex, High Design, so these are the companies who are charging premium prices, and they have the objective of product quality leadership, that higher the price, then higher would be the prestige or the image of the company or the reputation of the firm. Apart from all these objectives, there are some other objectives of the non-profit organizations. So non-profit companies and public organizations, they are having some other pricing objectives rather than generating the revenue and earning the profit. So they aim for partial cost recovery or for full cost recovery, and for this they rely on donations, sponsorship, private gifts and public grants. So these were the different types of pricing objectives. Step number 2 is determining the demand. Now each price will lead to a different level of demand and it will have a different impact on the company's marketing objective. Like if the price is high, then the company will be able to achieve the objective of generating the revenue. But if the price is less, then the company will be able to achieve the objective of capturing the market share. So normally an inverse kind of relationship can be seen here in the demand curve, like between the price and the demand. The higher the price, the lower the demand, and if the price is less, then the demand is high. Normally this kind of inverse relationship is found between the price and the demand. But when we talk about prestigious product or when we talk about luxurious product, then in that situation the demand curve may slope upward. However, if the price is very high, then definitely the demand may fall. So here in determining demand, the first point is price sensitivity, and it is also called as elasticity of demand. This refers to the degree to which the price affects the demand of the product. Now here you can see in the diagram the two demand curves. The demand curve shows the market's probable purchase quantity at different types of pricing. So it sums the reaction of many individuals with having different price sensitivity. Talking about the first graph A, inelastic demand, when the price of the product was $10, then the quantity demanded was 105. When the price increased to $15, then the quantity demanded per period was 100. So here you can see a small decline in the demand. So inelastic demand is when the buyer's demand does not change as much as the price change. Talking about the second graph B, elastic demand, here when the price was $10, the quantity demanded per period was 150, and when the price increased to 15, then the quantity demanded decreased to 15. So here it is very apparent that there is a large deviation in the quantity demanded, which is referred as elastic demand. So elastic demand is when the price or other factors have a big effect on the quantity demanded by the customer, then we can say that the demand is elastic in nature. So here the reason behind decrease in the demand is the increase in the price. So it is very important for the marketers to understand that what affects this kind of price sensitivity. So here you can see that there are certain factors which lead to the less price sensitivity. So the first is the product is more distinctive and has high quality. So when one company is having a unique product and it is able to differentiate itself from the competitors, in that kind of situation the customers are less price sensitive. Second is buyers are less aware of the substitute, or there might be possible that few or no substitutes or competitors are available into the market, which leads to less price sensitivity. The next is the expenditure is a smaller part of buyers total income. This can also be the reason. Then the next factor is slow to change buying habits. When the customers are using a same product or brand since a longer period of time, and if there is a lot of hesitation or resistance to change or to shift to any other product or brand, then in that situation also it will lead to less price sensitivity. Then the customers are less price sensitive when the part of the cost is paid by another party, like the firm or the company where the customer is working. And another factor is that the customers think that the higher prices are justified. The customer might have that perception that if the price is high, then the quality is also superior. So because of that they are less price sensitive. Apart from this, the customers are also less price sensitive when they cannot store the product and the product is assumed to have more quality, prestige and exclusiveness. So these are all the reasons which leads to the less price sensitivity. The second point is estimating demand curves. Now most companies attempt to measure their demand curves by using variety of methods. The first method is survey. With the help of survey, the company can identify that how many units the consumers would buy at different proposed prices. The second is price experiments. Here the company can vary the prices of different types of products in a store, or the company can charge different prices for the same product in a similar territory, and the company can measure that how the change affects the sales. The third one is statistical analysis. Here the company can identify the past price, quantity sold, and the company can do some sort of comparison by using the different types of statistical tools, and the company can identify the demand. Step number 3 is estimating cost. Under that, the first point is types of cost and levels of production. So here the company must identify the fixed cost, variable cost, and the total cost. Fixed costs are the costs that do not vary with the production level or the sales revenue. So when the company must pay the bills each month for the rent or the interest or the salaries, all this comes into the fixed cost. Variable cost vary directly with the level of production, and total cost is the sum of the fixed cost and variable cost. At the same time, the company must also find out the average cost, which refers to the total cost divided by the production. So here the management wants to charge a price that will at least cover the total production cost at a given level of production. Further, the company may also go for ABC, that is activity based costing. So activity based costing is a costing model that helps a company in determining the cost of certain activities involved in producing a product or service and distributing that particular product or service to the customer. So that way the company can estimate the cost. Then the company should also find out a short run average curve and long run average curve, which is referred as SRAC and LRAC. Now the short run cost is a cost which has a short term implication in the production process, that is, these are used over a short range of output. Thus all the cost incurred on the variable factors such as labor and raw material constitute in the short run cost. So short run is meant by that period of time within which a firm can vary its output by varying only the amount of variable factors like labor and raw material. In the short run period, the fixed factors like capital, equipment, management personnel, the factories, the building, all these things cannot be changed. So if the firm wants to increase the production in the short run, it can do so only by hiring more workers or buying and using more raw materials. It cannot in the short run enlarge the size of the existing plant or build a new plant of a bigger capacity. Thus in the short run only the variable factors can be varied while the fixed factors remain the same. Talking about the LRAC, that is the long run average cost curve. So the long run average cost curve of a firm shows the minimum or lowest average total cost at which a firm can produce any given level of output in the long run. So long run cost is the minimal cost of producing any given level of output when all the individual factors are variable. So here in the long run period of time, when the company wants to do more production, then in that situation the quantities of all factors, variable as well as fixed, can be adjusted. Thus in the long run output can be increased by increasing the capital equipment or by increasing the size of the existing plant or by installing a new plant of a bigger capacity. So this way the company should do the calculation of long run average curve and short run average curve. Hence, SRAC refers to short run average cost curve and LRAC refers to long run average cost curve. Then we have accumulated production. It refers to the gain a company experiences in producing a product over a period of time. When the company increases the production over a period of time, the workers learn the various shortcuts, material flow more smoothly, and the procurement cost slowly and gradually declines. The result is that the average cost falls with accumulated production experience, which is referred as the experience curve or the learning curve. Here you can see in this diagram that there are three companies, B, A and T1. B is producing 1 lakh units of the product and the cost per unit is $10. A is producing 2 lakh units of the product and the cost is $9, and TI is producing 4 lakh unit of the product and the cost of production is $8. So here the curve which joins the points B, A and TI, it is referred as learning curve. So as and when the company increases the production, it gains the expertise and slowly and gradually the cost per unit declines. So this concept is referred as learning curve or the experience curve. Then we have the another method of estimating the cost is target costing. Generally the cost change with the production scale and experience. This is we have seen so far, but they can also change as a result of the efforts which are made by the designers, engineers and the purchasing agents to reduce through the target costing. So when the company is reducing the cost of the product by the help of the designers, engineers, by redesigning the product, by taking the help of the engineers and the technical people, and reducing the price, that is referred as target costing. Step number 4 is analyzing the competitors' cost, price and offers. Here in this particular step, the firm must take the competitors' cost, price and possible price reactions into account. If the competitor's offer contains some feature not offered by the firm should subtract their value from its own price. So here the worth should be evaluated according to the features. If the company is providing a better product as compared to the competitors, then the price can be increased. But if the company is not providing that much features as compared to the competitor, in that situation the price should be decreased. So here, by doing the analysis of the features of the competitor product, the firm can decide whether it can charge more, the same, or less than the competitor. So it is very important to evaluate the product of the competitor. Apart from this, the company should also do the research on the competitor's current financial situation, on the recent sales, and the customer loyalty and corporate objectives. So if the competitor has a market share objective, it is likely to match the price differences or the changes done by the particular company. If the goal of the competitor is profit maximization, then it may react by increasing its advertising budget or improving the product quality rather than decreasing the price. So this way it is very important for the company to monitor the competitor's cost, price, and the offers. Step number 5 is selecting a price method. Now, after the company has identified the customer's demand, the cost function, the competitor's price, the company is now ready to select a particular price. Now here in this chart you can see the 3C model. So this 3C model for price setting, it comprises of 3 factors, namely cost, customers, and competitors. So here in this figure it is summarized the 3 major considerations in the price setting. The cost of the product, it sets a floor to the price which is the minimum price of the product. The competitor's price and the price of the substitute provide an orienting point. So majority of the times the price of the product is more or less similar to the competitors or the substitute product price. And the customer's assessment of the unique features establishes the price ceiling, that is the maximum price. So it can be said that if the company is setting the price below the floor price, that is below the minimum price, then it is not possible to generate the profit or the revenue at this particular price. And if the company is selling the price above than the ceiling price, that is the maximum price, then it is not possible to generate the demand at this price, because that price would be considered very high price. So it is very important for the marketers to understand the floor price and the ceiling price and set the price between the floor and the ceiling. So the companies select a pricing method that includes one or more of these 3 considerations, and by taking these considerations there are 6 different pricing methods. So these 6 pricing methods are markup pricing, target return pricing, perceived value pricing, going rate pricing, and auction type pricing. So the first one is markup pricing. So here the company is estimating the cost, that is unit cost, by considering the variable cost, fixed cost, and unit sales, and adds a standard markup for the profit. So here in the formula you can see that unit cost is equal to variable cost plus fixed cost divided by unit sales. By doing this calculation, the company can first find out the unit cost of the product. Then markup price is equal to unit cost divided by 1 minus desired return on sales. And desired return on sales is the margin which is desired by the company. Now markups are generally higher on seasonal items, on specialty products, on slow mover items, and the products which require high storage and handling cost, and sometimes also with the demand inelastic products. So this way this kind of products can have higher markup. Now there are certain advantages and disadvantages of markup pricing. This method works only if it brings the expected level of sales. Secondly, this is more popular method because it considers the cost and it is fairer to both the parties, that is buyer and seller. Apart from this, it is very easy for the companies to understand this method and calculate the pricing because it is based on the simple formula. This method ignores the current demand and competition, and also when all the firms in a particular industry use this method for pricing, then price tend to be similar in nature and the price competition can be minimized. So this was all about the markup pricing. The second pricing method is target return pricing. The target return pricing is a method wherein the firm determines the price on the basis of a target rate of return on the investment, that is what the firm expects from the investments made in the business. Here the firm calculates the amount invested in the business activities and then determine the return they expect from these, assuming a particular quantity of the product is sold. The formula which is used for target return pricing is equal to unit cost plus desired return into invested capital divided by the unit sales. There are certain limitations of this method. The major limitation of this method is the accuracy with which the amount of sale is estimated. So the sales which is estimated, that may or may not be accurate. Apart from this, this method ignores the price elasticity, and the competitors' prices are also ignored. Then the third pricing method is perceived value pricing. In perceived value pricing method, a firm sets the price of a product by considering what the product image a customer carries in his mind and how much he is willing to pay for that particular product. In other words, pricing a product on the basis of what the customer is ready to pay for it is called as perceived value pricing. The perceived value is made up of several elements like the buyer's experience with the product, the service support, the warranty, the quality of the product, the channel services which are provided, then the customer support, suppliers reputation, trustworthiness, and these factors. The cost of production may be less, but the company may charge more due to other factors like durability, features, reliability, service, warranty, and other factors which I told earlier. So these factors differentiate one product from the other, and the customer is willing to pay extra for these additional benefits. The company must inform the customers the additional value that their product is offering and for which extra amount is being charged. So this method suffers from several limitations, like sometimes a customer may suspect that the company has exaggerated about its product quality and services, and also there could be a segment of buyers who are price conscious and they do not want to pay extra for a product. So the benefit of using this method is only when a company offers more value as compared to its competitors. The fourth pricing method is value pricing. These days many companies have adopted value pricing. So value pricing is all about charging a fairly low price for a high quality offering or the product. So value pricing is not the matter of simply setting the low price, but it is all about re-engineering the company's operations to become a low cost producer without sacrificing the quality, with the objective to attract a large number of value conscious customers. So under value pricing there are two types of pricing methods: EDLP and high-low pricing. EDLP is everyday low pricing. A retailer who adopts EDLP pricing, he charges a constant low price with little or no price promotion and special sales. So EDLP method is adopted by Walmart. The second one is high-low pricing. In high-low pricing, the retailers charge higher prices on everyday basis, but they run frequent promotion with prices temporarily lower than EDLP, which is done by Big Bazaar. Fifth pricing method is going rate pricing. In going rate pricing, the firm bases its price largely on competitors' price. So whatever price the competitors are offering, the company will offer the same price. This kind of pricing is very common in the commodity like steel, paper, fertilizer, these kind of products. And the last pricing method is auction type pricing. In auction type pricing, there are three types of auctions: English auctions, Dutch auctions, and sealed bid auctions. Talking about the English auction, which is also referred as ascending auctions. In English auctions, there is one seller and many buyers. The seller puts an item or the product, and the bidders raise the offer price until the top price is reached, and the highest bidder gets the product or the item. Then talking about the Dutch auction, which is also referred as descending bids. In Dutch auction, there can be one seller and many buyers, and there is also a possibility that there is one buyer and many sellers. When there is one seller and many buyers, the person who wants to sell the product, he announces a high price for a product and then slowly decreases the price until a bidder accepts it. Talking about the situation when there is one buyer and many sellers, here the buyer announces something he or she wants to buy, and the potential sellers compete to offer the lowest price. So this is how the Dutch auctions work. And the third one is sealed bid auctions. Here the suppliers submit only one bid and they cannot know the other bids. So all the government departments and large public and private projects, they use this method. So these are all the different types of pricing methods. Step number 6 is selecting the final price. Now, when the company is about to decide the final price of the product, some other factors must also be considered. The first one is impact of other marketing activities like advertising and promotion. So, advertising cost and promotion cost is also having a direct relation with the price of the product. Suppose if the brand is having the average relative quality and the relative high advertisement cost, so in this situation the company will charge the premium price of the product because the quality is also high, at the same time the advertisement cost is also high. If the brand is having a low quality and the advertisement cost is also low, then in this situation the company will charge the less price. So this way the advertising and promotion cost is having a direct relation with the price of the product. After that, the company should also set its own pricing policy. Like the banks, they are charging fees for having too many withdrawals in a particular month. Similarly, the railways and the airline industry, they are having the penalties for the cancellation. So this way the company should have their own pricing policy. Then apart from this, the company should also measure that what is the impact of price on the other parties. Like if the company is say for instance having a high price of the product, then what would be the reaction of distributors and dealers, whether the distribution and dealers will carry the enough stock or not, will the sales force be able to sell the product at that price or not. Then what would be the reaction of the competitors. Then by seeing the high price, there can be a possibility that the suppliers may raise the price of the raw material. And the company should also see that whether the government intervention is there or not. If the company is charging very high price, then also the government may intervene, and if the company is charging very less price, then also the government intervention is there. So this way, before rising to the particular final price, the impact of price on the other parties must also be taken into consideration. So this way we have completed the entire price setting procedure. Thank you.